Hey there, welcome in to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, childhood immunizations. The Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit is ramping things up again in hopes of getting families caught up with shots for things like measles, mumps, and tetanus. We find out why your kids should be getting these vaccines and why you shouldn't be concerned about it. We talk with a member of the Arkells about their new album, and the Aurelia Museum of Art and History has launched a new exhibit that looks back to the city's roots. We get the conversation started after this. This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. We're joined by Deanna Thompson, Manager of Immunization Programs with the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
You are still on a mission. You were here almost a year ago, I guess, talking about getting childhood immunizations caught up, and it's an ongoing process because not everybody got them all at the same time initially anyway. So you're back with a reminder.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. Yes, catch up, keep up, stay on track is our campaign slogan, as we might say, and we're really just focused on children and families getting caught up. So whether you're in school or you have kids in daycare, or if you're an adult, you should be looking at your immunizations on a routine basis. With the focus on children specifically, because during pandemic and post-pandemic, many families didn't have the opportunity to get immunizations on schedule. So it's taken, several years. We're still working with families to get caught up, and we're doing well, but not good enough.
How far along are you? Let's talk percentages. How many are caught up, and how many do you still have to get the word out to?
So it's ever changing. We worked really hard last year with our high school students. We went from a coverage rate of around 40% for some of those school immunizations that you need. And we worked for about 8 months with that group and brought it up to about 96%, which is amazing.
Great.
So families responded. They got their vaccines, they reported it to public health, and we know and feel good that these students who are going off to post-secondary education, are well protected, especially when we start hearing things like measles, meningococcal illnesses. So we really want to make sure that kids in post-secondary are protected. Now, our elementary group, we continue to work with that group. It's ever changing. There's more vaccines in childhood. So that group, percentage-wise, is varying anywhere from some municipalities where kids have higher coverage rate and some are lower. And that all really depends on access to healthcare. If they have a healthcare provider, is transportation an issue? So it's varying depending on communities.
Has this been part of the issue? Because I know my doctor keeps a pretty good tabs on what immunizations I've had, what vaccines I've had, going way, way back. I used to have the little yellow card. Now I've got a thing on my electronic wallet. But he lets me know when I'm in need of something, and generally he can give it to me. But a lot of people don't have a family doctor, so that makes it a little more difficult. How do they find out whether it's time?
So if they have children that are in school, they probably have a record with public health. So it would be a good idea to, one, you could go online and request a record, or two, you could call us at the health unit through our Health Connection line and speak with a nurse that can review your record or your child's record, see what you're due for. If you have a healthcare provider, we always encourage to get your vaccines through them, because there are many without healthcare providers, and public health does offer clinics, but we're limited with what we can offer. So we always encourage those with healthcare to follow up and get vaccines and then report back to public health. Or if you don't have a healthcare provider, we work with the family on what location might be optimal for them to attend and, the day of the week. And if transportation is an issue for some families, we work with them on, how is the best way to get there.
And let's talk about how important it is to get these immunizations. We're talking about children and adolescents at this point, and there are all kinds of diseases that we were fighting back against when I was much younger than I am now. And I've been pretty healthy having gotten those immunizations. I don't recall getting very sick or ill or sore after having them. And then, of course, I think since the last time you were here and you brought it up, measles became an issue again. So how important is it for us to get these to make sure our kids are immunized?
It's extremely important. We know that vaccines work. I've said it before, it's public health's greatest achievement. And we know that vaccine is safe. The efficacy rate is high. Measles, mumps, rubella vaccine is a vaccine that's given at 1 year of age. It is extremely important to get your child immunized for that vaccine. After that first initial dose, you have around 93% coverage. So important. And then children get their second booster dose between the age of around 4 to 5 when they're entering school. And that brings them up to about 99% coverage. Can't get better than that. So we know that measles is circulating in our communities, often is travel related. So one of the things I wanted to highlight today, and as we move into summer, is the importance of families who are traveling at all. Really important to make sure that they are looking at their children's records, getting vaccinated specifically for measles, mumps, rubella. If they're young and they haven't had those 2 doses, it's important to do so before. And not only for travel, but it also is important, locally as well. The other one you will have heard in the news just in the last few days about meningococcal vaccine. Children at the age of 1 get a dose of meningococcal vaccine for the C strain. They get a second dose when they're in grade 7. So this past spring, we've been out in schools immunizing grade 7 students. So that's not a new program. We've been doing it for 20 years. So we are encouraging families, if they haven't got that vaccine because they missed the day, it's really important to follow up. And you can either get it through your healthcare provider or through one of our public clinics.
And for anybody who questions the safety, I think you look back over the many decades now that some of these vaccinations have been around, and there haven't been a lot of issues, if any at all.
That's correct. They're extremely safe. In Canada, we have high levels of safety surveillance that is completed ongoing. Any vaccines, if there's an adverse reaction, they are investigated by the primary care with our medical officer of health and Public Health Ontario. So we really want to make sure that, if there is a reaction, it's vaccine related, it is investigated immediately. We are very lucky here in Canada and specifically the province of Ontario. We have very strict guidelines for the storage and handling of vaccines. So we want to ensure that patients are getting the best vaccine and stored, and the efficacy is high.
So here we are at the end of the school year, but you're gearing up for the new school year. Who is your target at this point in time?
All students. Families should be looking at their children's records. It should just be part of that yearly process that, as we move into summer, you think, okay, I might have a little bit more time this summer. Let's look at the records, see if I need to get up to date, book an appointment. Often it may take several weeks to get an appointment of your choice, so planning is important, and having that done before you go back to school in September. So it's that catch up, keep up, stay on track over the summer. We'll continue with this messaging as we move into the fall, but encourage families to review records, connect with their healthcare provider, or give us a call at the health unit.
You mentioned earlier a lot of different ways people can get information. There's the health unit website.
SimcoeMuskokaHealth.org. You can access online. You can report vaccines online there. You can request a record online. You can book an appointment online.
All right. And is there a phone number people can call if they prefer that or need to do it that way?
705-721-7520. That's our main Health Connection line, and toll free it's 877-721-7520.
Always fun to look back to see how things began. The Aurelia Museum of Art and History doing that with a new exhibit it calls Reflections of Our Roots, a journey through its development to present day. Barrie 360's Will Conkin gets the Coles notes from the museum's history program coordinator, Hannah Arndt.
How did the idea of the new exhibition, Reflections of Our Roots, come to be? What kind of inspired it? Well, what really inspired it was the fact that Orillia is situated in such a tourist destination that my director had the idea that we should inform the people of Orillia about the history. And I thought it was like the perfect opportunity to teach everyone that's coming from, Toronto or all parts of Ontario or Canada more about the history of Orillia.
Not to ruin the surprise for those wanting to go, so maybe give us a little teaser what they can expect.
Guests can come and see one of the oldest artifacts that we have in our collection. It is a pair of fishing weirs from the Narrows, and they were used 5,000 years ago by the earliest peoples here in the area of Orillia. And they were used to trap fish for food, but they were also, it created the space for people to come together and talk and trade ideas. There's also, we just acquired items back into the collection that were owned by the Jacob Gilgador. They originally came from the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame. After they disseminated, they were brought back here to Orillia, where they are ours now. So we have his rowing oars, a big fox trophy, some smaller trophies, and his stopwatch when he broke the world record for rowing. We have everything from, folks can listen to a snippet of the Dumbbells, who were a World War I concert band. They can learn about Gordon Lightfoot. We have some industry objects on display from Otaco to Hurl's Dairy and Ted Hope Dishers. Yeah, I think that's what folks can see when they come to see this exhibit.
Was it always an idea to span that amount of time or did it kind of just start expanding as you started gathering more information?
My original idea was to always have a timeline spanning, from the earliest part of this area to the present day. The only thing that I can say that wasn't in the original idea, it was including an area about, notable Orillians, covering artists such as Franklin Carmichael, Arthur Schilling, Elizabeth Winwood, Jacob Gilgador. They kind of came after the fact when I realized, Orillia has more to offer than just the tourism and industry history, but there was also notable people that really made this area what it is.
Do you think a lot of people will leave thinking, wow, I didn't know that about the city?
I hope so. I'm hoping people that come in know that Gordon Lightfoot is already from Orillia, but, perhaps they didn't know cottaging in this area has taken place a lot longer than they may have known.
You're new to the museum. It's a neat first project for you. What did you enjoy most about working on this?
I really love designing exhibits and the early stages of them. Researching and writing is, really enjoyable, but also creating the design of the exhibit cases or the design of the text panels is really my favorite part.
Do people need to pay extra at all for the exhibition or anything, or how much are tickets?
Tickets to the museum are $5, but if you're under 25, admission is free.
Where can people find more information about the museum and maybe how can people keep up with what you have going on?
So you can find us on our website at www.orilliamuseum.org and at Orillia Museum on all the socials.
What Barrie's Talking About is a weekly podcast featuring the best Barrie and Simcoe County have to offer and more. You can get caught up and make it easy to keep up in the future by subscribing to What Barrie's Talking About through any podcast distributor. Still to come on What Barrie's Talking About, the Arkells have a new album out. We get the goods. Now this.
It's cool to care.
It's a well-known fact blood transfusion saves lives. It's also a well-known fact that the world relies on voluntary, unpaid donations to fill the need for blood. The need for blood never ends. Canadian Blood Services in Barrie is calling on you to help save a life. Please consider donating today. Appointments are mandatory and must be booked in advance. Book today at blood.ca through the Give Blood app or by calling 1-888-2-DONATE.
Cool to Care is brought to you by the Peggy Hill team, keeping it real all the way to sold. Reach out now at peggyhill.com.
It's cool to care with 107.5 Cool FM.
This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. The Arkells are back with a new album, Disco Loadout 1. Rock 95's Rachel Detta had a chance to chat up frontman Max Kerman about it, his sounding board, and who he listens to.
I'm going to start with Disco Loadout Volume 1. The Sledgehammer cover. Is that Peter Gabriel on it?
Show me around your fruitcake, 'cause I'll be your honeybee.
You know what's so funny? Someone else mentioned it. I'm so happy to hear it. No, that's Mike, our guitarist. Mike D sings verse 2. People are thinking it's Peter Gabriel. Yeah.
It's really funny because we played it on one of our shows. I'm like, I'll get to the bottom of this. I'm going to find it out. I asked my Universal rep, and thank you for answering that because no one could tell me.
Yeah, it's just Mike in our band, and he's always sang verse 2. But I don't think he's ever sang lead on any Arkells stuff. So it's, it was a thrill for all of us.
So now he can go around bragging he sounds like Peter Gabriel started a cover band.
It's true. It's true.
If the Arkells ever, decide to break up. Now, I saw that you put up the production, or at least the layers for Big Feelings, and it's an anxiety-driven, like the way that you layered it. Did you start with the idea of causing anxiety through the instrumentals, or was it like the hooks and lyrics that came to you?
Good question. I find with my approach to social media is if you think too hard about it, you won't do anything. So I just had the stems pulled up in Logic, which is what I use on my computer. And I was like, okay, we'll start with the strings and then we'll add the bass and then we'll add some drums and guitar and just layer it that way. But yeah, if I told you I had a real strategy, I'd be lying. Because the thing is, sometimes people ask me, I was like, well, how do you do social media? I'm like, honestly, I just try not to think about it too hard. The minute you start thinking about it too hard, you're screwed.
See, I'm talking more about the musical composition, like the production of the song is what I was getting into. Like, were you guys sitting around, all of a sudden he's doing a drum beat and you're like, oh man, that's hitting me? Or did like the hook for the song come to you first?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, Tim had a cool drum beat that it started with. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I liked singing over it. And then I was like, okay, there's some chords here that make sense. And then I went over to Tony's house and we kind of like worked on it a little bit. And then the band got together and we just played it live together, making sense of the song. But yeah, it is a very dramatic song.
Yeah,
and it makes you we're like, how do we want to make people run through a wall? There's some songs that like are passive listening experiences, like you can throw it on when you're cooking or something. This is not that song. Like you need to be like in motion, ideally. So driving makes a lot of sense. Working out makes sense. Like, being outside makes sense. But like casually throwing it on your phone to listen to it for the first time, like, on your kitchen table, no, it's not going to work.
No, you almost want an experience the first time they go to listen to this song.
Yeah.
Maybe driving on a highway a little bit too fast, but we're not going to endorse that in any way, shape, or form.
No, but I mean, like a little over the limit.
15, maybe.
15, tops.
Now, I wanted to go into more production, be like, okay, yeah, you got your driving rhythms and all that kind of stuff, but what about a song like Laundry Pile? Is that just another sitting around strumming on a guitar, or again, did lyrics come first?
Yeah, good question.
Because it's such a completely different,
yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts about the band is that we've allowed ourselves to do whatever we want. I know there's some bands exist in genres that feels very narrow. And it feels like their audience only wants them to do one thing, like sometimes and that's fine. That's good. And if you love that and that's the only thing you want to do, then great. But for me, I'm such a fan of so many different kinds of music. And so like sometimes I'm inspired by singer-songwriter music. I love singer-songwriter music. And that's where a song like Laundry Pile would come from. But then also it's like, with Big Feelings, I was like, the drums in Kanye West's All the Lights, like I love the drums in that song. And we're like, let's like rip off the drums there. And and there was a minute we're like, who produced that? Can we just get that guy to produce the song? It didn't work out. We found another guy named Dave. It was awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I just like the reason why I make music in the first place is because I'm so inspired by other music. And when I hear a good song, my first instinct is, oh, I want to try to write something like that or something that makes me feel that way. So, yeah, I think it really depends on, how we're feeling the moment and also reacting to the last thing that we did. A lot of times it's like, the last thing we did was kind of quiet. Let's do something loud. Or, I don't know. I think it's all contextual to the time and place you're in.
Yeah, you kind of go with the flow and the seat of your pants and whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah, exactly. What you like. You just want to entertain yourself.
And what about pre-testing? Before you start like sending it to labels and you start wanting to test it on somebody, are you tossing it in the car? Are you sending it to your third cousin's curling club to listen to?
Yeah, I have this one friend named Greg who is a real asshole. He really, but he's got great taste. He's one of my best friends. And forever, I've just sent him songs. And he'll tell it to me straight. He'll tell it to me very quickly. It's like, nah, this doesn't do much for me, or nah, this is a hit. Don't worry about it.
And, what is his percentage? Is like he usually 100% on?
Not necessarily, to be honest. He's very specific with his taste. I wonder if I can pull up the text message originally. I wonder how long that would take. But yeah, but Greg's, but also it's like you just want somebody whose taste you trust, right? Because you can only make stuff that you are proud of, that you like. And yeah, Greg, I trust Greg's taste a lot.
Good to know. Now, I think as an artist, knowing that someone got your lyrics tattooed on their body is probably a really cool thing. What do you think is the most tattooed Arkells lyrics?
Ooh, I think it might be "And Then Some." Just or 11:11 and 12:34. Probably that's number one, 11:11, 12:34, which isn't as specifically as Arkells because that's just the time on a clock. But I think "And Then Some" is a tattoo that I see a lot.
I wonder how many people made "And Then Some" like their first wedding dance song. Probably too
a lot. We get a lot of emails on like Monday during the summer. So people sending us videos from the Saturday.
What's the song or the artist you have on repeat right now you can't get enough of, you're telling everybody about?
Ooh, there's this singer-songwriter from Alabama, and she has a complicated name. It's Waxahachie.
I think I've seen her or stuff. She's like popped up on the charts here and there.
Yeah, she's really cool. She has a song called Right Back to It. So if you're gonna, let's try one. And then there's another artist I just saw, Fusion, named McGee, MK.GEE.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very sort of like 80s inspired guitar playing. It kind of sounds like Peter Gabriel and the Police, but meets like Frank Ocean. Like it has a modern thing. And of course his algorithm, or the McGee algorithm on my TikTok is like taking over my timeline. Eric Clapton was just like, the future is safe because McGee is so good at guitar. So Eric Clapton's giving him love, which is cool.
Okay, that's a legend. And Bud Stage, lawn or seats, which would you have?
Depends on who I'm with. It depends on the show.
What if you're going with Greg? If you're going with Greg.
If we're going with Greg, we're going to see a show that we really care about. So we want to be like in a pit. But at other friends, I could go to any show at Bud Stage. Not any show, but like I went to go see Morgan Wallen last year with a couple of friends. And I don't really know that much about Morgan Wallen. I know he's one of the biggest artists in the world. And I could kind of care less. But so lawn's great. Party up there. You're chatting with people. It's great.
Rock 95's Rachel Detta in conversation with Arkells frontman Max Kerman. And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Rachel and Will for their input, to Matt Ladder for his technical touch, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.